Hello and welcome to our educational podcast. I'm Frynellia your host for today's discussion. I'm joined by my fellow presenters, Ara Adisalarai and Amelia. Together, we will be exploring how developmental theories, national education, philosophies, and educational philosophies shape teaching and learning in Malaysia. Our discussion today was inspired by the Minister of Education, Yang Berhormat Puan Frynellia 2024 speech on Karama Insania, which emphasized on dignity of humanity in education. They remind us that teaching is not only about achieving academic excellence, but also about nurturing moral, emotional, and physical well-being. This approach truly echoes the national education philosophy's FPK, which envisions balanced individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, also physically developed. Personally, I believe this message is crucial today because education should help students grow into responsible, compassionate citizens and not just high achievers. Let's begin by exploring how developmental theories help us understand how learners grow and learn across different domains. Then we will connect these theories to Malaysia's education policies such as the Razak Report, the Ramadhan Report, and the Education Act 1996. Finally, we will reflect on this aligned with the principles of the FPK and teacher education philosophy FPG. So to start off, let's look at the cognitive and socio-emotional domains. Ara, could you share how theories such as Piaget's and Erickson's help us understand students' developments and how these are reflected in the Malaysian classroom practices?
Thank you, Frynellia. So, when we talk about student development, I believe it is very important to look at both the cognitive and socio-emotional domains because they work hand in hand in shaping how learners grow. According to Radurban 2020, development can be seen as an improvement in functional efficiency. In other words, how well we perform as we grow. Cognition, on the other hand, involves processes like thinking, remembering, and understanding. So, cognitive development is really about how learners expand their ability to grow, to know, reason, and make sense of the world around them. The growth happens through both maturity and the environment they interact with. If you look at Piaget's theory, for example, of cognitive development, it gives teachers a clear ideas of how children construct knowledge at different stages. For example, in Malaysian primary schools, teachers often apply his theory during the concrete operational stage, which is between age 7 to 11. During this time, learners are encouraged to participate in hands-on and group activities, things like experiments, puzzles, or math manipulatives, to develop logical thinking and problem-solving skills. Hayat et al. 2014 mentioned that at this age, the child starts to acquire the skills of operational reasoning. So, by aligning these lessons to students' developmental stages, teachers ensure that learning is meaningful, engaging, and suitable for the cognitive growth. Meanwhile, when we shift to Erickson's psychosocial theory, it highlights the emotional and social side of learning. At this stage of industry versus inferiority, again around ages 6 to 12, children begin to build confidence and a sense of competence. Erickson 1968 believed that this stage is crucial for developing a child's self-esteem. In Malaysia, teachers often nurture these by assigning collaborative projects or classroom duties that allow students to experience success and responsibility. Espekau et al. 2022, as cited in Jiang and Wu 2022, pointed out teachers can encourage children to explore and take on new challenges while providing support and encouragement to prevent feelings of inferiority. This balance helps children grow emotionally, socially, and academically. So, When we integrate Heidegger's theory and Erickson's ideas, we can show how Malaysian classrooms strive for holistic students, one that develops both the mind and the heart. Learners become not just intellectually capable, but also emotionally resilient and socially confident, which reflects the true spirit of student-centered learning.
Um, that was a really great insight, Ara. How about you, Amelia? Do you have any perspective on these questions?
So I really agree with that explanation because it clearly shows how both Piaget's and Erickson's theories help us understand learners as whole individuals. So this connection between cognitive and social-emotional development is so important. When students think, feel, and interact confidently, learning becomes much more meaningful for them. So, for example, in the Malaysian classroom context, the use of hands-on and group activities during the primary years reflects Piaget's emphasis on active learning. So it allows children to explore and apply logical thinking rather than just for them memorizing facts. So at the same time, Erickson's stage of industry versus inferiority reminds teachers to create positive experiences through classroom duties or group projects that build confidence and self-worth. So altogether, this practice show how understanding developmental theories lead to truly holistic education, one that nurtures not only the intellect but also emotional balance and social confidence. So it reminds us that effective teaching always involves both the mind and the heart.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you, Ara. Also, there was a really clear and engaging explanations. I especially appreciate how you link Piaget's stage to the Malaysian use of hands-on learning strategies. This approach truly reflects how our classrooms are becoming more learner-centered. I also agree with your point about Erickson's stages of social-emotional development. According to Erickson's 1963, the stage of industry versus inferiority that you highlighted earlier, said that how children's sense of competence is shaped by their school experiences. From my perspective, this is a very important in Malaysian school where students often face pressure to perform well academically. Supporting their emotional growth helps them build confidence and motivation to learn. In a Malaysian study, Bakar et al. 2024 found that factors such as school attachment, parental involvement, and self-efficacy positively influence adolescents' resilience in the face of academic and psychosocial adversity. This shows that when teachers understand and apply developmental theories, they can create a more empathetic and supportive classroom environment, which is an approach that directly reflects to the values of Karama Insania in practices. Now, building on Ara's explanation and also Emilia's insights earlier about the cognitive and social-emotional aspects, let's move on to the physical domain and its connections to our education policies. Emilia, could you share your insights or your perspective on how theories such as Heidegger's or Giselle's connect to the philosophies? Or do you have any other your own insights?
Thank you for the question, Frynellia. So let's focus on Heidegger's ideas. So building on Heidegger's ideas, we can actually see a strong connection between this theory and Malaysia's own educational framework. So especially the National Philosophy of Education or Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan (FPK). So for short, the FPK highlights that education in Malaysia is ongoing effort to develop individuals holistically, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, so that they become balanced and harmonious human beings. So this idea of being physically balanced is directly reflected in Heidegger's developmental task. He explained that during middle childhood and adolescence, learners must master physical skills, develop positive attitudes towards their bodies, and learning to use their bodies effectively. So when students gain this physical competence, they also build self-confidence and social harmony, which fits beautifully with the FPK's aim of nurturing individuals who are balanced in all aspects. So, for example, in many primary schools, teachers organize teams, games such as dodgeball or relay races during physical education (PE) lessons. So these activities help children develop motor coordination, teamwork, and confidence. So exactly what Heidegger described as learning physical skills necessary for ordinary games. So beyond just fun, these games teach cooperation and resilience, which contribute to emotional and social harmony, values strongly emphasized in the FPK. So this aligns perfectly with Heidegger's view that skill development, including physical, social, and emotional skills, is central to a child's growth. It also supports this through co-curricular and guidance activities. For example, the uniform bodies, the KRS, the SCOT, so that it can ensure that education goes beyond the classroom. Another example is, as cited in Soyanto et al. In 2024, Uzoyeshi 2002 identified several guidance techniques suitable for adolescents, such as group counseling, career days with guest speakers, educational tours, and the use of films to expose students to different professions. So this approach helps adolescents set realistic goals, make informed career choices, and develop emotional and social independence, all of which align closely with Heidegger's developmental task for this age of group. So if we look at it all together, Heidegger gives us the how and when of development. The FPK, the National Education Philosophy, provides the why in this. So as future teachers, this connection reminds us that education is not just about academic success. It's about supporting students as whole individuals to make them the all-rounder, helping them to grow physically, emotionally, and socially at every stage. And while Heidegger focuses on the individual child's growth, policies like the FPK focus on structure and system. That's why teachers are the bridge between theory and practice. By understanding these developmental stages, we can design lessons, guidance activities, and co-curricular programs that truly meet our students where they are.
Wow, that was such an mind-blowing insights, Amelia. And Ara, do you have any say in this?
Yes, firstly, that was very interesting.
Which?
Okay, so according to Heidegger's 1972, human development happens through a series of developmental tasks that individuals need to master at different stages of life. Things like learning academic skills, building friendships, and developing moral values. He also emphasized that education plays a key role in helping learners achieve these milestones. And honestly, this really connects with Malaysia's Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan, or also known as FPK, which aims to produce individuals who are well-rounded, holistic in terms of intellectual, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And in our classrooms, we can actually see this happening every day. For example, teachers often use group discussion or role-play activities to help students express their opinions, their own thoughts through working collaboratively, and also reflects on moral lessons. These activities, they don't just support academic progress, but also nurture social and emotional development, which aligns perfectly with both the FPK and Falsafah Pendidikan Guru Malaysia. On the other hand, Gesell 1940 explained that children's development follows a natural sequence, as our teaching should always match the student's readiness. In Malaysian schools, we can see this idea in differentiated instruction, where teachers adapt lessons to meet students' varying needs and abilities. For example, we have pemulihan before.
Media classes.
Yeah. As Al, Mohammed, and Ibrahim 2024 highlighted, differentiated instructions help teachers understand each learner's readiness, interests, and learning styles through a range of strategies.
Thank you, Aura, for the comprehensive and thoughtful explanations. Frynellia. From what you mentioned, both of you mentioned earlier, I feel that this holistic approach is one of the Malaysia's greatest strengths in education. It reminds us that physical development, such as coordination, movement, and health, is equally important as intellectual growth. As Jamal et al. 2023 note, the Malaysia National Education philosophy emphasizes a balanced development of physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual dimensions. When teachers recognize this, they can plan lessons that balance both mental and physical activities, helping students stay engaged and confident. Zakaria and Mazalan 2024 further emphasized that physical education and health education, or as we all know in Malaysia is pendidikan jasmani dan pendidikan kesehatan, are vital yet often undervalued in schools. These subjects enhance not only physical fitness but also mental focus, emotional balance, and social skills. By incorporating them will help teachers nurture well-rounded, confident, and resilient learners, supporting the holistic goals of the national education philosophy. To wrap up our discussion, we have seen how developmental theories such as Piaget's cognitive stages, Erikson's social-emotional theory, and Heidegger's developmental tasks provide a strong foundations for understanding students' needs. These theories align closely with Malaysia's educational policies, including the Razak Report 1956, Rahman Talib Report 1960, and the Educational Act 1996, which emphasize equal access, holistic education, and character development. As Adams 2023 notes in his research, Malaysia's ongoing education reforms demonstrate a strong connections between psychological theory, policy, and the national aspirations to produce a balanced individuals. All these efforts support the national education philosophy visions of nurturing learners who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced. As a future teachers ourselves, I believe that understanding the links between theory and policy helps us to design lessons that are meaningful, learner-centered, and value-driven, which is truly reflecting the essence of both FPK and FPG. Before we end our discussions, I would like to ask both of you one last question. How can we, as future teachers, ensure that the principles of Karama Insania and the holistic aims of FPK are truly reflected in our classroom practices, not just in theory but in daily teaching and learning?
May I go first?
Yeah, sure.
So, as future teachers, we know that it's not enough for us to just teach facts or theories. Our real mission is to bring Karama Insania and the Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan to life by shaping characters, empathy, and values in everything that we do. According to ICHA and Koshoka 2024, teachers' roles go beyond delivering knowledge. We also guide students toward living morally upright lives, which ultimately builds a better society. And that really starts with us as future teachers, showing respect, fairness, and genuine care in the way we treat our learners. When students feel valued, they naturally try to value others too. We can also weave moral and spiritual lessons into any subject. For example, science topic on the environment can lead to conversation about responsibility, yes, pollution, stewardship, values that align with the FPK's vision of balanced individuals. Furthermore, creating a positive classroom climate is just as important. Kuro 2024 points out that teachers shape this climate through inclusivity, open interaction, and collaboration. Things like group work, peer sharing, and reflection help students develop empathy, one of the key aspects of Karamah Insania. And of course, we can't forget the 21st century skills, which involves critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. As Harlinawati and her colleagues 2024 explained, these competencies are essential to prepare students for global challenges, media influences, as well as technology. In the end, we know that it will all comes back to reflection. Constantly asking ourselves, are my students growing not just in knowledge, but also in humanity? When we align our teaching with this vision, Karamah Insania and the FPK become more than theory. They become our daily practice.
And
Sure, you can go next.
okay. So, as future educators, our responsibility goes beyond teaching academic lessons. It's about nurturing humanity and bringing the principle of this Karamah Insania and the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan FPK to life in our classroom. So this means shaping learners who not only think critically but also act with kindness, empathy, and integrity. It's all important in our modern society. So it starts with us as a teachers. It starts from me by showing fairness, respect, and care to the students in the way we teach and interact, so that the students feel appreciated and understood, and without realizing, they give our the mutual respect. They mirroring our actions. Yes. So they are more likely to mirror this positive.
So basically, we are the role model.
Yes, whereas in their relationships with others. We also can weave moral and ethical lessons into any subject. For instance, in the science class, as said by Ara just now, so through this small conversation, it's not about gaining knowledge, but also about developing strong character. So creating a positive and inclusive classroom is equally vital. So encouraging group work, open discussions, and reflection allows students to practice empathy, cooperation, and self-awareness, values that are at the heart of this Karamah Insania. In terms of my role as a teacher, this discussion reminds me that I'm not only just a transmitter of information, but also a role model, a guide. I need to design lessons that promote holistic growth and intellectual, emotional, moral, and physical. So I must also lead by example, showing integrity, patience, and care in my every interaction. So most importantly, I should continuously reflect on my teaching to ensure my students are not only learning but also growing into responsible and compassionate individuals.
Wow, that was a very wonderful insights, Aura and Amelia. I really like how both of you highlighted the importance of translating values into the classroom practice. It is true that theories and policies only come alive when we as teachers model empathy, balance, and respect in our interactions. By practicing this Karamah Insania daily, we embody the real essence of the national education philosophy. And sadly, that marks the end of our discussions today. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Frynellia Lady Anak Jumat, and with me were Ara Salarai and Amelia Sudao. We hope our discussion has deepened your understanding of how developmental theories and educational policies guide us in nurturing holistic and compassionate learners in Malaysia. May we become a good teacher for our students. And that's all from us. Thank you.